BeatBeat is one of those games that dares to try something different through combining two different genres into a single package. In this case, a rhythm game meets a platformer, and honestly, it just works. And when you factor in BeatBeat's 90s/early 2000s retro flair, there's an added level of character that makes experiencing the game all the more unique. My name's Johnny Bueno, and before we go any further, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Generic Games for sending me a code ahead of BeatBeat's official release date to check out the game. With that said, the first time I opened BeatBeat, I was hit by a wave of nostalgia as I was greeted with a desktop that looked like something straight out of Windows XP. Except this time, instead of Bonzi Buddy and a host of spyware greeting me upon startup, I was introduced to our virtual pal B9, who immediately recommends completing the tutorial. But this is less of a recommendation and more of a command, as I apparently forfeit the right to my firstborn to BeatBeat's developer if I skip it. I don't have children or plan on having any anytime soon, but I somehow still felt threatened, so I went ahead and started the tutorial. Here you'll learn the ropes of BeatBeat and how you move your little cube around the field during a song. You'll jump, climb walls, sprint, fall, and mash the hell out of your keyboard to hit directional buttons as they appear on your screen. Despite the mishmash of genres, BeatBeat's concept is really quite simple. Assuming you're using a keyboard, you'll move using WASD and hit notes using the arrow keys as long as your little cube is inside of them. Like any rhythm game, you'll be graded on how well you time your button presses to the beat. It was during this tutorial that I realized how well rhythm and platformer style games mesh together, as both genres very much require a sense of precision when boiled down to their most basic elements. Much like how precise button presses are needed to match the rhythm and rack up a high score in a rhythm game, platformers require precise movement to move about a level. They mesh so fluidly that I'm actually surprised this formula isn't used more often. Anyway, because this is a rhythm game, we should probably talk about the songs. BeatBeat features 16 songs to play through, which primarily consist of electronic tracks that range from funky to chill to something you can dance to. It's not exactly a massive track list, but each song is fairly memorable as they feature their own uniquely designed level to go along with them. Whether that be the neon synthwave background that accompanies a more chill, easygoing track, or the bright pink platforms and sandy background that accompanies one of the tracks I would play at some sort of beach rave. These songs become even more memorable in that you'll be playing them multiple times across the several difficulty levels featured in BeatBeat. You'll start out with access to easy and medium difficulties, and you'll eventually be able to unlock hard, extreme, and even impossible difficulty to challenge even the most seasoned of rhythm game veterans. As mentioned, songs featured in higher difficulties are typically just more difficult versions of songs you've already played through in previous difficulties, but there will also be new songs mixed in as well. While it obviously might get repetitive doing these same songs again and again, it's interesting to see how additional layers of challenge are added to songs you may have found easy to complete on lower difficulties. Those additional layers of challenge definitely put me in my place several times and served as a reminder that I have absolutely no rhythm. Luckily, when you miss too many notes like I did and run out of HP, you don't fail the entire song. Each song features checkpoints that you'll be sent back to should your HP bar at the top of the screen reach 0. I really like this, as replaying through an entire song just to get another attempt at that one specific part you're having difficulty with can be pretty egregious. Also, getting sent back to the last checkpoint is actually a really smooth transition with no loading screen required. Failing has never felt so seamless. I should mention, hitting notes and reaching checkpoints does replenish your HP, as well as these crazy masher sections where you can beat the living hell out of your keyboard to heal yourself and expand the masher circle as far as possible. Going back to the uniqueness of how each level is designed, this also speaks to how platformy each one is as well. Some levels may only feature a confined area where notes are much closer together and place more emphasis on precise movements on the ground and in the air. Others are full-on traditional platforming levels where you're working your way from one end of the level to the other, jumping from building to building. There's also a level where you need to only hit a single type of note, but they are spread far apart and require quicker and more precise platforming skills. I felt this was a great way to mix up gameplay so that each level feels different beyond just what notes appear on the screen. On the note of mixing up gameplay, BeatBeat also features several boss fights with a unique boss enemy to face at each difficulty level. These fights can be fairly challenging, as on top of trying to hit notes, you'll need to dodge attacks that the boss throws at you. This is where your mastery of timing notes correctly and moving your character are really tested, as you'll now need to constantly keep your positioning in mind to avoid taking damage. These bosses are all fought to the BeatBeat main theme, and they just kind of die when you complete the song. I thought this felt a little anticlimactic. Maybe the boss fights would feel more intense if you dealt damage to them as you hit notes, with more precise button presses dealing more damage. That way it would feel more like a duel to further test the player's skill for that specific difficulty level. One important factor to talk about when selecting a song is the ability to add modifiers that either make a song easier or more challenging. The former includes modifiers like automatic movement, slowing down songs by 15%, making beats bigger, or only needing to press 2 arrow keys instead of all 4. The latter includes modifiers like invisible platforms, speeding up songs by 15%, or beats that slowly fade away. Using modifiers to make songs easier is fantastic simply from an accessibility standpoint, and serves as a great way to adjust the game's experience to whatever works the best for you. Of course, there's a drawback to this, in that it negatively affects your score at the end of the song. The more of these modifiers you apply, the more they impact your final score, and the less likely you'll place highly on the leaderboard for a track. This also works the other way for the challenge modifiers, in that they add to your total score at the end of a song. So even from a challenge standpoint, you also have the ability to customize your gameplay experience in addition to shooting for that top spot on the scoreboard. These modifiers can be unlocked through spending resonance, which is gained through completing songs, and this currency can also be used to unlock totems, which are the little sparkly objects that appear in the center of your controllable cube. There's a nice variety of totems to choose from, and they have no impact on gameplay, so you're free to pick whichever one tickles your fancy the most. Admittedly, you can barely see your totem because you're constantly on the move and the camera is usually zoomed out pretty far, but it's still a nice little customization option for those who like that kind of thing. Now, there is another method of obtaining resonance, and it can be found in the Apps and Games folder, staying true to that classic PC desktop experience. Here, you'll find a handful of silly minigames that you can earn resonance from. There's Pet 'em, where you simply pet a virtual dog, and it serves as a great form of stress relief when you're stuck on a particularly difficult song. There's also MS Paint Pinball and an app called Resonance Charger that, much like Pet 'em, serves as a de-stressor and even lets you accrue enough resonance in 4 hours to unlock everything in the game. My personal favorite, though, is called The Numbers Go Up, which is essentially just RuneScape with a far more simplistic presentation. Somehow, my addiction for seeing number values continually increase through repeated clicking followed me into a rhythm game, and I couldn't be more terrified. Before wrapping things up, I should mention that BeatBeat does feature some plot elements, all of which center around your digitized companion, B9. Every time you complete a new song, she'll ask you a question which starts out fairly playful, like whether you prefer cats or dogs. But these questions will be interspersed with oddly personal questions like, do you deserve to be happy? There's clearly much more to B9 than meets the eye, and I found her rather charming with the variety of questions she puts in front of you. The first thing I always did after finishing a song was immediately click her little desktop icon to see what she would ask next, and it added a nice sense of progression beyond the actual gameplay. I actually found myself caring about how I thought she'd react to some of the more serious answers, and considered answering some of the questions less truthfully because of that. I can't say many rhythm games that I've played actually included some sort of plot progression like this, and I thought it was a very welcome and quite heartfelt addition. And that's about it for this review. BeatBeat managed to take 2 different genres with some core similarities and morph them together into an experience that is truly special. While the track list may seem somewhat limited, there's a level of uniqueness to the gameplay and design of each song that makes each one memorable in different ways. On top of that, being able to customize your experience through modifiers and a surprisingly sincere plot make BeatBeat a rhythm title that truly stands out from the rest. Oh, and if you're feeling inspired, there's even a level editor where you can upload your own music and create your very own BeatBeat levels, adding countless hours of replayability to an already addicting title. Once again, I'd like to thank Generic Games for sharing a game code ahead of BeatBeat's release. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and sharing any thoughts you have on BeatBeat in the comments below. I always appreciate any interaction and support, as I love making videos just like this one. So subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, thank you for watching.